How does it feel at this moment to be at the helm of a team that really hasn't done anything like this in this century?
That was exciting. You know, they played very well this weekend. We got two very good road wins. You know, we took today off, but excited to get back in the gym tomorrow and start preparing for Thursday's game.
Talk a little bit about, you know, the emergence of some of these players like Karen Flagg, Sheree Davis, Schlegel off the bench, just making it easier for Brandy Brown and just opening up the game for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Brandy was fantastic this weekend. I think she averaged 18 and 10. But it's no longer just Brandy and, you know, us sitting there hoping Brandy scores and gets every rebound, or we're not going to win. Heidi's been fantastic coming off the bench. Karen and Sheree have just grown from an intelligence standpoint, a learning standpoint. Their growth over the last 2 months has been fantastic. You know, Sheree's shooting percentage has gone through the roof the last couple weeks. You know, they got a really good understanding of the game. And then Monica and Liz are shooting the ball well, and Melissa is doing a great job of guarding. They're fun to coach. They're starting to come together a little bit, and it'll make for an exciting Thursday afternoon.
What's it like to, it's not new for you, but from your past in other places, but what's it like to be in a game in the middle of the conference season that really means something? It hasn't happened here in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're after, I think. That's the goal, is to play meaningful games throughout the year. I mean, I don't want to sound like Tim Tebow, but it's exciting. You know, it's why we do what we do. That we get to compete and, you know, prepare with the idea of winning and give yourself a chance to win rather than just try to show up and keep the game close. And that's what these kids have worked all summer for, and then in the preseason workouts. You know, it's interesting, and hopefully it's something that they're enjoying.
I'm going to follow up with the question Jim asked to Liz. I mean, how does it feel to be a team that's contending? As Jim would say, it hasn't happened here in a long, long time.
Well, you know, this team has talked about being prepared to win basketball games, and I think they felt like that was the next step. You know, last year I felt like every Monday we talked about how it was such a good game and we lost, and then poor John had to write an article to try to get people excited about the next game, and it always included, but we were only down 2 with 30 seconds to go, or we were tied with 4 minutes to go, and all this kind of nonsense. You know, I think that really motivated our kids to take the next step, and I thought they did it with their preparation in the summer, and then our practices, as I've mentioned before, have been just incredibly competitive, and it's allowed us to be more competitive and actually prepare to win basketball games on game night.
What has changed about this team? I think last game, heading into halftime, you were 1 for 13 from the 3-point line, but we're winning. And if that was happening last year, I mean, you'd probably be losing by 20 points. What has changed about the team?
Just their defensive approach, their possession by possession approach, and they're starting to believe that the defense is important. You know, I was just looking at last year's box score with Detroit. We beat them at home, and I thought we did a good job guarding, but we didn't. We just made a bunch of shots, which I should have known, because that's the only way we won games last year, is when we made a bunch of shots. This team's a lot. You know, they're more focused and more willing to do the things that aren't quite as much fun. You know, we had Melissa in last week because Melissa's really spearheaded our defense. And she doesn't get a lot of the headlines, doesn't put up a great stat line, but does a terrific job of guarding. You know, Brandy's taken more charges this year than she has in her entire career. So kids are starting to buy into the fundamentals that are important to winning. And, you know, the scoring and the shooting is a lot more fun to write about, and most of your highlights are of that because it's just more fun to watch. But playing defense and rebounding, those sort of things are what correlates to winning.
Heidi's averaging just over 10 points a game. How important, and maybe why, is she still coming off from the bench instead of putting her in the starting lineup?
Just so you have something to write about. Heidi's a very mature player. Heidi's got a great understanding of the game. The nature of our starting lineup is such that we can put Heidi in for any player, and we actually at times get better, and not everybody can do that in our conference. I feel like we put a good starting lineup on the floor, and I think we probably get better 2-3 minutes in the game when Heidi gets in the game. and we're able to make adjustments with Karen's versatility, Melissa's versatility. We're able to put different people on different players and move some people around, and Heidi's ability to play inside and outside. You know, she's just an invaluable resource off the bench, and she's got a great understanding of the game and can quickly make adjustments, and just very, very cerebral in her approach. So she's been fantastic coming off the bench, and will continue to do so.
Bob, with the 15-5 record, I know you're not through the first half of the league schedule, but in your pregame talks with the coaches, if you talk at all, have they been complimentary of this program?
Yeah, I mean, I thought before they were just nice to me because they were going to beat us. But now some of these guys actually seem like nice people. Yeah, I mean, they appreciate what we've done. We've come from a long way. You know, we still have a kid on this team who lost every single game she played a year. You know, and I guess that's probably, I like Brandy because she's a really good basketball player, but I really respect what she's been able to do and how she's turned her mindset around, and we just battled through a bunch of adversity to get where we are today. So, I mean, I'm happy for her in that regard, and I think that's what drives her to be as good as she's been for us, and to continue this season.
So only dressed nine girls last game. Talk about the importance of playing smart basketball and keeping down the turnovers and fouls, because you don't have a whole lot of bodies to put in.
No, we don't. We don't have, and that's obviously a concern when you're getting ready to play the best post player in the league. You don't have, you know, one way you guard her is you just really bang on her and you're willing to take fouls. Well, we'll run out of players if we play that way. So that game plan is out the window. You know, we've got some tough kids. You know, we've played with as few as 7 this year at times, and they've showed a lot of resiliency, and they've never used that as a crutch. They've never once have I ever heard them say, "Oh, we only have whatever 8 kids at practice. We got coaches practicing sometimes just so we can go 5-on-5." And that's probably a big difference between this year's team and like my first year's team. The first year's team constantly talked about how we only had 7, 8 kids. This year's team doesn't care. As long as they've got enough to start, I think they would feel like they could win.
Talk a little bit more about Detroit. Liz said, well, they'll be bigger and they'll be faster. But
Yeah, same old story, right? You guys
So,
have heard that before.
what
Right?
happens
So,
after the word "but" as you answer that question?
I don't know. You know, it's been the most difficult game plan to put together because she is such a dominating force on the low block. I don't know. I'm glad we didn't practice today because I don't know what we would have practiced. You know, we've got to come up with a plan to try to slow her down. At one point, she was leading the country in scoring. So she's incredibly efficient on the low block. She is probably a little bit bigger than us, and their guards are probably a little bit faster than us for the 12th straight week. So we've got to figure out a way to counteract that. But it's going to be quite a challenge. I mean, she's legitimately good. She's playing as good as anybody in the conference right now. You know, it'll definitely take a group effort. We don't have anybody good enough to guard her one-on-one. We'll have to try to do some things defensively to really try to keep her off balance.